All right, well, I want to welcome to Trials Progression my new friend Oliver Smith, who is currently riding at an extremely high level. And so, Oliver, tell me a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to the viewers here.
Yeah, hi. I'm Ollie Oliver Smith. I've been a trials rider for 19 of my. Well, I'm 22 years old now, so I've been riding for 19 years. Grew up riding Ossets. Transition into petrol or gasoline bikes, and currently ride in the UK. Live in the UK, but grew up in the USA in Denver, and currently ride in the British Trial 2 Championship and the Trial 2 World Championship, which is new for this year.
So, this is your first year riding at the World Rounds, is that correct?
This is my first proper go at it, yeah. So when I was 16 or 17, I had a quick dip my toe in. I rode a few of the 125 rounds, and then I think when I was 17, I tried a couple of Trial 2 ones, but I was out of my depth back then. I was too young, not quite mature enough to handle all the stress and everything that came with it. So this year is my first proper year of giving it a go and giving it a go properly.
For some of the viewers, myself included, I probably don't even know the difference really between riding a local trial in America, riding a NATC event, and riding British or World Rounds. So can you kind of talk me through what you see as maybe a difference in America versus Europe, and or in those different levels of competition?
Yeah, well, I'll start out from club level. So all of us here, I'm guessing yourself, Tom, and people getting into it have seen club trials. Club trials are a great way to get into the sport, and they're the grassroots of everything. But the level is fairly tame and nothing too scary, nothing too drastic. All very laid back and chilled. And then you move up to the NATC, and the British Championship is very similar. You have a minute and a half to do a section, minders, which you're finding out yourself about, and
Yep.
learning, and everything just gets bigger and a lot more serious. You know, there's pressure on the line. You want to do well. There are some big names from all over the country, both in the States and the UK. So it's the place to go and prove yourself. But then the World Championships are a completely different level. You've got three lines for the men. You've got two women's lines in the Worlds, Trial 2 Women and Trial GP Women. And then I'll just give a quick mention. I doubt she might see it, but Emma Bristow just got awarded an MBE, which is incredible, to be knighted by the King in the UK, which is amazing stuff. So congrats to her. So those are the two women's levels. And then you've got Trial 3, which is 125 riders, up to, I think, 22, 21 years old. And then Trial 2, which is what I compete in. You're on 300cc machines. There are no age limit, and there are 40 plus riders at every round. It's an incredible championship to be a part of. And then you've got Trial GP, which is Tony Bow, Adam Raga, Busto, the real nutcases of the sport, who are head and shoulders above what anybody else's level is. And great to watch.
And at the World Rounds, you guys are all racing together, right? Talk to me about how many laps, sections, how does the structure of that event work?
So I'll take you from Friday. So Friday you have signing on and section inspection, and various media duties for the top lads. And then so the trial itself is 2 laps of 12 sections. I think you've got 5 hours total to do it all in. But yeah, everybody's out on the course together. But so the lower down riders, say the 125s always start first. And then it finishes off as the latest riders to finish and start are the Trial GP boys. Oh, and it's
Gotcha.
no stop as well, which adds a whole element into it. Instead of the stop allowed time limit, it's no stop, which is not a great rule, to be perfectly honest with you. But that's the way it is.
And with no stop, forgive my ignorance, but you can pause for like just a moment in order to hop. But what is it, like 1 second or 2 seconds?
See, this is the problem. It's completely at the observer's discretion. And the problem is everybody's it's an interpretation of a rule. So it's nothing set in stone like time is. You can't argue that a minute and a half is anything different than what a minute and a half is. But with the no stop, everybody's idea of a stop changes. So it's a rule that doesn't work. I haven't spoken to a single rider that likes it. But yeah, so it's meant to be completely no stop. So if you cease forward motion, you get a 5. But as I'm sure if you've seen any videos from the GPs, that isn't the case. It's a bit of it's not a great rule. But yeah, so you're not technically meant to stop, but observers normally give you about 2 or 3 seconds.
Okay. And then you have a minder, correct? Is this something that I thought I had read that there was no minders on half of the sections and then they brought them back? Talk to us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. The rules that the FIM set were that they want to get rid of minders completely, which I can see the benefits of because it cuts costs down considerably. But what they did this year was 6 sections with minders, 6 sections without, and their reasoning was that it would cut costs. So I don't know who thought that was going to help save money because you still have to pay for a minder to be there, even if they're not doing anything on those 6 sections. But anyway, they tried it at the first round, and unfortunately, a fellow Brit, Toby Martin, had a big crash and I think he fractured 2 vertebrae, and he's been back out on the bike since, but he hasn't been able to compete. So real shame. But since Toby's injury, there was a massive riders' revolt, and there was a big petition, and we've gotten minders back for the rest of the year, which is really quite a good thing. It's either you have minders or you don't. I don't see why they tried to make it a bit of both, to be honest.
So let's talk for a moment about that minding relationship. This is something that I'm trying to work on, learning to be a minder myself. And you have a minder. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your relationship with your minder? I'm assuming it was probably your dad, and then now it's not your dad. And what do you gain out of that relationship?
Yeah, so I think for most young riders, it starts off with their dad. And quite a few dads still keep going. One of my best mates, Harry Turner, his dad Paul still minds for him at 57, which is quite impressive. Paul's an animal. But yeah, so it all starts off with your dad until eventually your dad can't do it anymore. My old man's 60, and he doesn't quite... he's not quite as agile as he needs to be to mind at the World Round. So I've got my minder Rowan Beverley, and we just met at local trials, and so kind of grew our relationship from there to the point where we're doing the World Rounds. But yeah, a minder's and rider's relationship is very important to be able to understand the kind of intricacies of whether a minder to grab the bike, but it's not just the catching, it's the whole event. It's the lining up for steps, it's the keeping time, making sure the rider is fed. There are so many elements just aside from the catching that are so important to the overall result, and you have to be a kind of a mental coach as well. Because as a rider, I'm a young I'm a young man. I get frustrated with myself very often during a trial, and it's quite often the minder's job to calm me back down and remind me what we're doing, and take me back to the right mindset.
Yeah, that's a lot of different hats to wear.
Oh yeah.
So, Ollie, I get ready for a local event probably a little differently than you get ready for a world round, and the travel and the pressure and all those different aspects. Do you mind talking to me a little bit about kind of the prep for a race, or what that whole week looks like as you're gearing up towards the event?
Yeah, so it starts normally a week and a half before go day on the Friday at a World, because you need to start prepping the bike, getting all of your kit together. You want to make sure the bike is perfect before you leave. Everything, new tyres when you can. Make sure, like, grease all the linkage, oil changes, look at the clutch. You need to be very, very particular, especially at quite a high level, because you don't want the bike to be the reason that you have a bad result. So prep always starts very early. And then personal prep, you're just making sure that you're eating enough, staying hydrated. I don't do too much of the diet. I just make sure that I'm eating enough. I'm still riding and exercising enough to keep my body loose, but not doing too much that I end up hurting myself doing something stupid. So it's a gradual build up, and then the week of it, everything's like panic, get everything together, load it all in the van, double check, triple check everything, and then going through spares boxes. The list never really ends. You just have to have kind of do your best and then hope for the best. Every round this year has been over a 15-hour, 20-hour drive. Which I think to you folks in the States probably isn't too massive, but for us Brits, we're used to driving a couple of hours and complaining about it. So so big old drives, and in a van as well, and then we sleep, and similar to everyone else in the States, we've got our vans converted to sleep and live out of them. So we do that for 2 weeks on end. I only just got back the other day and slept in a proper bed for the first time in 2 weeks, which was quite nice.
Wow, 2 weeks on the road is a long time. Right now, you're not just riding trials, right? You're balancing your time with you're in university as well, correct?
Yeah, so I'm at a university in Derby, which is smack bang in the centre of the UK. Originally, I'm from the south coast, pretty much near France. So I live bang in the middle of the UK now. So I'm studying marketing at university, and trying to tie that into Miro, which is my riding gear brand. So doing university, Miro, and then all of my riding and training and everything, and then trying to maintain somewhat of a social life as well. So it's quite a full on existence at the minute.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. And actually, that Miro brand, I do want to talk a little bit more about. So we're going to make a separate recording for that. But anything that you want to share, kind of as someone who has moved up the ranks and is competing at an extremely high level, any thoughts for viewers who are maybe wanting to move up a class or thinking more about getting more serious about the competition? Does it strip away the fun? Because I know I got into the sport because of how fun it is, and at some point it might feel like a job. So any advice for an individual who's maybe thinking of taking it more seriously?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. You need to maintain the fun aspect of it. If you lose that, you lose what you got into it for. So as long as you're maintaining the fact that you're having fun on a bike, which is why we all do it, why each one of us got into bikes, is because we love riding bikes. But if you want to move up on the competition side of it, just don't expect too much too quickly, and really drill certain aspects of riding into your certain aspects and techniques into your riding, and how you approach a competition, to really make the most of it. Don't feel like you have to rush anything. This is a sport that takes a long time and a lot of work to get to the level that I'm at, and it takes a lot of time and effort to get to the level that a clubman's at. It's a very rewarding but very frustrating and hard sport as well. But it is very rewarding when you move up the ranks and you see yourself improving year on year. But you have to be stubborn. You have to be quite just thick-skinned. But yeah, what can I say? It's a great sport. Great sport once you're happy with your riding.
Yeah, and for those that might not know, and I'm curious as well, how much effort you're putting in, how much time, and you might be right now in the peak of your season, looks different than the off season, but on average, how often are you practicing? Is it 5 times a week? Is it how many hours working with a minder, without a minder, riding for fun versus intentionally training? Can you talk us through kind of what's maybe somewhat normal for someone who's in trial 2?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take so I ride with Harry Turner a lot up in Buxton, which is in Derbyshire, near where I'm at uni. So a normal week for us is we ride 3 times a week, Saturday, Sunday, and normally a Wednesday. This is during the winter. And then during the summer, we normally go to, it's our little club, so we go to Barry's on a Thursday. In the UK, with the weather being so bad all the time, we are constantly having to wash, strip down, do loads of stuff on our bikes. So quite often those days in between are just admin, making sure the bike's spick and span, ready for the weekend again. But then during the peak season, like now, I'll aim to be riding probably 4-5 times a week. Whether that's all training or just time on a bike, it's all good time. That you're never on a bike and not working on something. So my minder lives a ways from me and is full-time working as well. So I don't get to train with them all too often. So quite often it's just working through basic drills in my riding to improve on the bits that I'm weak at. And quite often, and I think I'm speaking for myself and probably everybody listening, that it's not the big stuff that takes the most points. It's normally the little intricacies like setting up and turning that take the most. So we quite often work on quite mundane but important little bits to hopefully improve our end score in a trial.
Now, you said a key word that I'm curious about. You said drills, and I love to drill different things. So what does that mean? Can you talk me through maybe some drill or something that you're doing at your level?
Yeah, so we'll take a technique. Let's say you guys call it a jap zap, but we call it front touches. So we'll find a rock. Say if we isolate that as a weak point of ours, we'll see it. We'll go and find a suitable rock or log or something to work on it, and then just go round and round and round and round, like trying to pick up on little different things that we do. We might get it really nice one time, might not the next. So we're trying to pick up on those little tiny little detail changes that make a big difference coming to a trial. Because if you see a rock that everybody's struggling with, they might be trying to splat onto it. You never know. That front touch might be the way to do that rock. So we try and build on top of each of these techniques instead of just doing something that we're comfortable with. Every time we go out riding, we'll find something that we know we're weak at. And we're all guilty of probably not doing this and just go and find something fun that we like to do. But when we're training, albeit without a minder, we just focus on our bad bits.
Yeah, I can see where that would be a little less fun to work on the things that you're not as good at as opposed to the things that you're already strong in, but makes a lot of sense. So you might try different techniques on the same rock and figure out which one works and why.
Yeah. There's a video on my Instagram on the Miro page, just where there's this one rock, but you could hit it either doing a front touch or splatting onto it. And just on that same rock, we had half an hour of just going round and round, trying to work out which technique and what way is best to be doing that, especially in a trial situation.
Well, Ollie, I sure appreciate your time today and talking through some of the higher level aspects of trials that a lot of people don't have the insight into and all the work that it takes. So I appreciate your time. Anyone you want to thank or say farewell to?
Yeah. I'll just, I'd like to say, first of all, Mum and Dad, because without them, none of this is really possible. I think it's the same for the majority of us younger riders. And then a few of my Miro, which is my brand, but then Steve Saunders at Saunders Extreme Sports for helping with bikes. Southwest Trials, who have always been a great supporter of me. Hookwoods Trials Club, my local club, always been very supportive, great atmosphere there. And Paul Turner for pretty much adopting me whilst I've been at uni. and Harry, his son, and then Barry, who's been a bit of a mentor for me up in the north, teaching me to be a hardy northerner.
Awesome. And where can people go to follow you and follow along with how you're doing?
A lot gets posted to the Miro Products Instagram page, so that's miro.products on Instagram. And then my personal page is o.smiffy. So I'll give periodic updates on both of those.
Awesome. Well, Ollie, I sure appreciate your time. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.